I'm hot-blooded, check it and see. I got a fever of 103.
Can you
For
please
about
never
5
do that again?
seconds.
Ever.
That was horrendous. My cat just died.
Hey party people, I've 12 here and welcome to the 18th Suburban Gooner Podcast. 18 is in rated 18 thanks to our guests. We've already had one half of the Goonersphere Podcast and tonight we have the other, the man formerly known as the Armchair Gooner, at James Stokes. Hi James.
Hello everybody, hello Suburban Gooners, hello Suburban Gooners and all your dedicated listeners. I hope you're all fine this evening.
How are you doing?
Super, wonderful, delighted, elated, happy, joyous.
Good, thanks for coming on. As always, we're joined by the one and only Ben Leader as well. Hi, Ben.
Howdy, how's it going?
And unusually, we're in for a special treat. Mr. Positivity himself, Chris, has actually chose to be with us tonight. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm hot-blooded, check it and see. I got a fever of 103. I'm going to be ultra positive.
Can you please never do that again? Ever.
That was horrendous. My cat just died.
I think a little part of all of us just died.
I just explained that I tried to do as minimal editing as I possibly can. Now I'm wondering if I have to go back and take that out for people's ears.
You can take out whatever you like, mate. That's fine.
Chris, that was horrifying.
Yeah.
That's quite simply one of the most disturbing moments I've ever experienced in my life, and I've seen a few.
James is never coming back now, Chris.
Not if being serenaded in such a manner is what I can expect.
Right, I'm going to go straight to you, James. Was Chris's singing better or worse than the performance against the Orcs of Stoke?
Better. And the only reason I would consider it better is because the performance against Stoke has had me in such a spiralling bout of depression that I've taken to putting myself in what I like to describe a digestive biscuit coma. In as much as when things don't go according to plan with Arsenal, I have a coping mechanism. My coping mechanism, unlike many people's, is chocolate digestives. I gorge myself senseless on chocolate digestives when Arsenal fuck things up. And they fuck things up to such an extent I've gone through 4 packets, which is an unprecedented amount of chocolate digestives. Which is, in my opinion, is actually the perfect summary of Arsenal's performance yesterday. 4 packets of chocolate digestives is what I've had to eat to get over it.
You're in like chocolate DEFCON 4.
Like, when Arsenal lose, we should invest in McVitie's.
Yeah, because I'll go through them like a plague of damn locust.
So how about you, Ben? What did you think about the performance? In your words, Ben, you can go full Tropic Thunder.
Can I go full Tropic Thunder? Well, it's never fun to be beaten, is it? Especially when we just play so poorly. Like attacking, we offered nothing. When watching it, we just struggled to sort of play through the lines, didn't we? There was so much space. Oh, I don't know. Just it was so frustrating. Just not even saying anything. That's how frustrated I was. Just watching. When it ended, I just didn't. I watched it with my dad, and we were just mumbling nothings at each other, just trying to comprehend what had just happened. It was, you get caught between thinking, well, other teams have gone there, they've drawn or they've lost, but we're now into sort of the business end of the season. So I think you've got to try it out the window, haven't you? I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
I feel numb.
I know.
So that singing serenade you just got was the only bit of positivity that I could even bring to this podcast.
That wasn't positive.
As we were,
I'd have to agree with that. It was anything but positive.
It sounded, at least it sounded more upbeat than I'm going to be now, because I just feel numb. I feel like I wrote a blog on yesterday. My match preview was about me being excited that I'd got the feeling back. And when I say the feeling, I'm talking about, when we used to be in the hunt for trophies, we used to be in the hunt for the league. 2004 or 5, 2003, 4, we'd be in the hunt, and you get to this time and every single match, doesn't matter who we were playing, Leicester City at home or Everton away or Manchester United away, it didn't matter who we were playing, I got massively nervous because every single 3 points meant something, and every single 3 points was us one step closer to the league. And I had that feeling, like I've always been nervous this season at times, but I had a massive feeling yesterday that, these next 10 games, I'm going to be ultra nervous. And so when to put in such a uninspiring performance like that yesterday, afterwards, I just felt numb, and I felt myself thinking, well, there are people in Ukraine that are going through horrible situations at the moment, or there's people in places like Syria that are going through a hell of a lot worse than me. And from a football, I mean, it's real first world problems from a football fan's point of view. To start thinking like that, I was almost a bit like, well, how sad has it got that I'm just now numb, and I don't know.
Chris, you sound like you're the kind of person that's going to get upset if your local Starbucks closes.
Yeah. And I can't get those iced frappuccinos.
It's like, damn it, I need a gingerbread latte. I can't possibly leave the house.
I call Chris Emotional Chris. That's my name for him.
He's never struck me as being that emotional. He seems quite, centered.
I try to. But
Yeah.
at the moment,
maybe he's going to, burst into bouts of song when he's depressed.
I think it's like we were talking about just before we came on air, the hypocrisy of fans, but also the flip-flopping nature of fans. Like if we'd have turned over Stoke 6-0, I'd be on top of the world. I'd be talking about this squad being absolutely amazing. We all wanted Arsene Wenger to sign a centre forward in the summer, but he didn't. But we're dealing with it, and we've had our injuries, and we're really pushing on. And I believe that we could do this. And when you then have such a terrible performance, because there wasn't really any excuses for yesterday, was there, Steve? I mean, there was nothing. Like before with the Dortmund game, we've played lots of when we lost at home to Dortmund. Well, we'd played quite a few big games, and the same with Napoli and the Manchester City game. We were off to Naples, and then 3 days later we've got a midday kickoff. But there wasn't anything. There was no excuse for that performance yesterday.
No, I agree, and it's one of those things that the performance that bad that we haven't really even mentioned the dubious penalty decision, because it wasn't even that was the kind of cause. As you're saying, when we played Man City, we had some bad decisions go against us, but we were playing okay, so we kind of hung on to that. But yesterday, although yes, it was the winning goal, it didn't really matter hugely, because it was just horrendous performance. James, can I ask you about your opinion on Charlie Adam?
I can give you an opinion. It's going to be an opinion laced with profanity and unpleasantries. He's just an overly aggressive tub of lard that blunders around the pitch, kicking the opponents with impunity, it seems. I mean, how in the name of all that is holy he got away with some of the challenges, and more specifically a stamp on Giroud, is beyond me. I mean, I have seen evidence today that there's going to be some sort of FA investigation to see if he's going to be punished in lieu of what he did, but you get the impression they're not going to take it that seriously, because it doesn't necessarily at first glance look like an intentional act. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was. But to summarise, my opinion on Charlie Adam would be one word, beginning with C, ending with T, and having a UN in the middle. That I'm not actually 100% sure whether I can say on your broadcast, so I'm going to spell it out just in case.
You can. We used to be clean, but then when Daniel came on, we had to change it. So.
Daniel will have that effect on your podcast.
What did you guys think of the decision to bring on Sonogo but take off Podolski? I thought that was. I mean, I know Podolski didn't have a great game, but nobody did, to be fair. But if we're going to have a two-man strike force, do you not think it would have been a good opportunity to see Giroud and Podolski next to each other?
I think personally it wasn't a bad idea to put Sonogo on. Moving Podolski alongside Giroud, I don't think would have had any effect other than to highlight how shit he had been throughout the entirety of the game for another 15 minutes or so, because he did. I like Podolski. I think he's got a lot to contribute towards the team, but every now and then he'll have performances like that one against Stoke, where he's utterly and woefully ineffectual to the point of it being almost maddening. And you think, because I kept looking at him and thinking he was just wandering inside. He's always sort of hanging around that area between the edge of their penalty box and the centre circle, where he was supposed to be deployed on the left. And because of that, we had no outlet on the left. And he was just sort of arbitrarily wandering around with a disinterested look on his face. And I thought, yeah, I can absolutely understand why they took him off. In fact, I would have done it sooner, personally.
Yeah, I think that's one of the frustrating things that fans get with Wenger at the moment, isn't it? Is we seem to wait until the magical minute before we make any substitutions, despite
he's always done that.
Badly people are playing. It is an issue. It is an issue. I mean, the reason I say it is because obviously with Podolski, if he gets the chance, you're kind of the Sonogo chance, even on his right foot, I would have rather Podolski been there.
Agreed.
But yeah, I can definitely see why they took him off. What did you think, Ben?
It's just frustrating, isn't it? Because what happens is you lose a game of such importance, and then the context of the whole situation just gets blown, just gets obliterated. We start sort of like digging out players, and I personally, I don't know how you can blame a 20-year-old young lad who hasn't played. He hasn't played any football really. He's played 2 games, and you can see by his inexperience because he lashed at it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't try and place it. He was nervous. He knew what it meant. I think he had his name sort of lit up in lights before he actually struck the ball, and then unfortunately for him, it went sort of flying over. But there's so many players that, if we want to go down the route of just like having a go at, we could, like Giroud.
All of them.
It was
Anonymous.
a given. He was relentlessly fouled, but I was personally frustrated with his response and with his sort of Chris Howard signature finger slapping.
It was perpetual histrionics.
Bang on. It was just ridiculous. He's got to be more resilient. The constant layoff, it becomes very maddening, doesn't it? There's times where I hear debates of, Ozil needs runners, Giroud needs runners, but they've got to adapt their game. If we don't have those players on the pitch, you can't keep trying the same thing over and over and over. The amount of times he had the ball with the defender up his backside, and instead of sort of shifting it onto his left and just having a go, he'd do a sort of an aimless flick to no one, fall to the ground, and then sort of complain to the ref. And you sort of think you can't. If someone gives you lemons, you've got to make lemonade. You don't make oranges. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because we're sort of getting into that same sort of period where things seem to sort of collapse. And
What about if they were genetically modified lemons to taste like oranges?
we'd have Luis Suarez up front. That's what Luis Suarez is.
He's a
Luis Suarez.
modified lemon.
That's what he is. He's modified. He's got... No, but I'm being silly. But you see what I'm saying? That obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing. When I personally saw the lineup, I don't know about you gents, but I was happy. I thought that had enough. You've got Podolski, he's got something he needs to prove. He's a big, strong boy. He's up for the fight. And you've got Rosicky. You can, as James already said, you can understand the sort of faith in the lineup that he chose. But it was just the point when it wasn't working. You think you need to stop managing by numbers now and bring on someone else to try and change the game. But unfortunately, it didn't.
I think
therein
lies the problem. I think the problem we've got is that for all of the good work that he does do, and he is, let's not go into a Giroud bashing session, but ultimately,
it wasn't meant to
he's
be.
No, I know, but he is a 10 to 12 million pound footballer playing in a team going for the league. And I'm offering this sort of insight to you guys all to get your opinion on. Can you honestly win the league with one 10 to 12 million pound footballer? One up front?
No.
No, I don't think you can either. But I don't think you can lay any of the blame at his door when he needs help. He needs somebody else to take the burden off him.
Yeah, and it's the same what Ben was saying about Sonogo. It's not his fault that we're in the situation where he has to be our backup. And it's not Giroud's fault. He's our only first choice option.
Someone said, I can't remember who said, because I've read a few blogs today, but somebody said, you can't, we have the worst of the top 6. We have the worst strike force. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess...
that's open to debate when you consider Giroud scored more goals than all of Chelsea's put together.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, you look at the horrible...
Who said that, Chris? That's ridiculous.
I can't remember. I've like I said, I can't remember who wrote that, but someone said we had the worst of the top 6 strike forces. Just look at the strike force. You can look at Chelsea and say yes. Even Tottenham, though. I mean, even them. No,
I'm not having that. I'm sorry.
I mean, they're not. They've got Soldado and Adebayor. Soldado is turning out at the moment to be a complete flop, but Adebayor started to score goals, but he's playing for a new contract. So I don't know. I think it was a bit of a silly comment to make in terms of we've got the worst strike force in the top 6, but I certainly think we haven't got a strike force capable of winning us the league based on not just yesterday, and whatever game is freshest in your mind is always going to have a big impact. But from what I've seen throughout the whole season, the Chelsea game where he had a good chance towards the end and he fluffed his lines, the United game where equally Sanya's put a great ball in and he's just not got there. And I just think there are certain players in other teams who shall remain nameless, like 25-30 million pound strikers, that get on the end of those. Don't know. What do you reckon, James? Ben?
I would agree to an extent with the remarks made about our strike force. Like, you couldn't really put an argument forth for either Chelsea, Liverpool, and I suppose you've got to include Man City, of having a worse strike force than us, when that's apparently not the case. I've always said from the start regarding Giroud that I like him as a player. I think he contributes a lot to the team, but I don't think he can do it by himself. I think we need an option, maybe a varied striker, someone who can... It's one of those popular things to say at the moment, where we need someone with pace who can run in behind the defence and offer an option to the creative players behind him for placing through balls. And whilst I don't want to sound like I'm adhering to what is popular talk amongst everybody on Twitter, I do agree with that statement that we could benefit wholly from having the option to deploy somebody with differing attributes up front, whereas Sanogo and Giroud essentially play in a manner very similar to one another. I just think that it's very hard to argue that bringing in a good striker in January wouldn't have made a difference to the way the team performed. I think that is fundamentally a mistake made by the manager not to do that. And I find it very difficult to sort of... I mean, there is a thought that he tried but didn't succeed to bring somebody in January. And I find that very difficult, that maybe January, looking at it from an outsider's perspective, it wasn't just January, it was the summer and arguably the January previous, where we could have, thrown a little bit of money at bringing in a top quality striker in. And I've refused to believe there aren't options out there for a club as big as Arsenal, and with a scouting group as qualified and vast as we have. Yeah. I'm sure they can identify somebody who could have come in and did a job, but we didn't seem to do it. And I would hate that to be the nail in the coffin for our season, because it's a silly mistake to make. And it was unnecessary as well.
How nervous are you all about this our season just turning into a complete washout in the space of the next month? Because it's getting scary now, if I'm honest.
I can sum that very easily. I think my midriff and its contents are like a swirling maelstrom of terror at the present.
Yeah.
I think my main concern is, as I said last week, is that we've run out of stickers, and I prioritise
stickers.
Oh, James, you haven't heard about my stickers?
No, I'm a little in the blue about the stickers. So,
so with the programme this season, there's come stickers and a sticker book, and every time I've stuck the stickers in, it's scientifically proven now, we win or we draw.
Get some more damn stickers then.
I know, but there aren't any. There aren't any more.
Well, find
the programs.
And I had one set of stickers
it's in the
left.
programme, James.
I had one set of stickers left, and I have prioritised the FA Cup, so I didn't stick them in before the Stoke game.
Well, I'm sorry, I've got to out you now, Steve, because we already had this discussion, and I told you to stick them in this weekend, because I would give you, because I've still got 3 or 4 programmes. I think I've got 4 programmes that have still got stickers in that I haven't stuck in. So I was going to sacrifice my own pleasure of sticking in the stickers, the Arsenal stickers, into the Arsenal sticker book, and give that to you so that you could stick in my stickers, and you've completely reneged on that. So I'm laying this. If this season capitulates, it won't be down to Arsene Wenger. It won't be down to Olivier Giroud. It won't even be down to anyone. It won't be down to Mesut Ozil. It'll be down to you. And I hope you can sleep well tonight. Just think about that.
We're going to call it Stickergate.
Yes,
Stickergate.
I will happily make a public apology if this happens.
Yeah.
I think it'll have to be a public flagellation.
Ben, how nervous are you? Are you scared over the next month?
I was scared as soon as Walcott and Ramsey disappeared. I think James is bang on about what he said about a striker, but that's the past now, isn't it? And we can't really dwell on that sort of stuff. But it's that old cliche, isn't it, that every game becomes a cup final, and it's boring of me to say that, but it is, because can you imagine if we lose to Everton at the weekend? Can you imagine what will happen to Twitter? Can you imagine what happens to it will explode. The game. You know what I can imagine scenes of is that when we were at Villa, Chris,
Yeah.
and everyone just
Toxic,
absolutely, apologies for my French, but lost their shit. And we were me and Chris were quivering, like, should we go? Because it was scary. It's frustration, and I feel sorry for Arsene because it's been taken away from him. Two of his key players have been injured, and his plan goes to pot. Our football is based on counter-attacking play.
Yeah, but he's a master of his own downfall in that accord, Ben, because he could have made the signings in the summer. We were scratching around for Demba Ba, so I see what you're saying, but I can't have this complete defence of Arsene Wenger.
Oh no!
If we end up falling apart again, if we get knocked out of the FA Cup and we're in another hunt for fourth, he hasn't signed his contract yet. I'm not advocating that we throw the baby out of the bathwater here, but he hasn't signed his new deal, and if we end up with another scrabble for fourth, there'll be the noises will only get more vociferous around should he even get this new £8 million a year deal, because he's not willing to do the cutthroat thing and say, bang, £40 million, I want or £50 million, because he did put a bid in for Suarez, but he's not willing to get his man. I don't know.
Well, no. I just wanted to sort of reply to you, basically. I 100%. The summer was the issue. We didn't get whatever happened for whatever reason. We didn't do the correct business that we needed. And he has to deal with that as the season has gone through. But you saw what happened to City. They took out Aguero and Yaya Toure, and they slipped. It doesn't matter how much money you spend or what players you buy. If your two best players, arguably, are missing, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. You have to make do, and you have to hope and expect other players to step up, and then it put pressure on other members of the squad. You've got someone like Chamberlain, who's had a huge layoff, and he's come back and he's been excellent. I think we can all agree that. Thank God for Chamberlain. He's on an upward curve, similar to what Ramsey was. That he's different gravy from that game at Palace to now. He's becoming, because you know what we were talking about before. I don't know if you remember this, guys, about when people get injured and they get this like what was the word I'm looking for? Where everyone's like, oh, he's the saviour, but Chamberlain actually has the potential to be our saviour. I don't know what you think, Steve. Is that too much?
He's the saviour.
No, but you see what I was...
No, 100%.
Because he gets built up, and people, like you've seen with like Wilshere, where people have said, "Oh, he was," but we've seen that he struggled a bit, and
and I think he needs to play as much as he possibly can for the rest of the season. Oxlade-Chamberlain, whatever game he's fit in, he has to play.
He was criminally omitted from the team on Saturday, if you want my opinion as well. Well, not criminally, but he was oddly omitted.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bizarre decision because we needed that, verve and enthusiasm as an outlet.
Definitely. What did you think about your man, the Flame, not being in the team, James?
I mean, I didn't, lose my shit entirely, to coin somebody else's phrase, but I would have liked to see him in there, because you get the impression those are the kind of games that he is in his element, and those are the kind of games where we need him the most, because he's not the type that's going to be pushed around or bullied. But Arteta was probably the best of the midfield performers. I don't think he really put a foot wrong. Yeah. Just defensively, he was solid. So I don't really think there was any particular, gaping chasm unfulfilled that filled there. I thought Arteta performed perfectly well.
Yeah, good shout. While we're talking about, we mentioned Suarez and strikers, have any of you, apart from you, I know you have, Ben, have any of you read what The Guardian have published on their website this evening?
No.
So, I've got the article here. So, Liverpool's John W. Henry admits Luis Suarez did have 40 million clause. And basically, the article is, and it's quotations, saying that they decided that contracts aren't really worth the paper they're written on, so they just decided not to sell, even though he did have a £40 million buyout clause.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, there's not much you can say to that, is there? You can understand. You can understand why Arsenal wouldn't want to find themselves embroiled in some sort of ridiculous legal battle.
Yeah.
You've basically made a mockery of any sort of release clause put into anybody's contract in the future. Because if people start doing the same thing, what's the point of it being in there?
Yeah.
Players aren't going to sue because it's going to involve animosity between them and the club, and probably some significant time not playing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, in a World
Suarez
Cup
should
year
have gone on
as well.
strike. Suarez should still be on strike. And Liverpool would be about 8th in the league.
In a World Cup year, I'll read the quotes. The quote is: Luis Suarez is top goal scorer in the English Premier League, which is arguably the top soccer league in the world. Henry is reported. Henry, I read Henry as Henry all the time now. Henry is reported to have said he had a buyout clause of £40 million. Arsenal, one of our prime rivals, offered £40 million plus £1. What we've found is that contracts don't seem to mean a lot in England, actually in the world of football. It doesn't matter how long a player's contract is, he can decide when he's leaving. We sold a player, Fernando Torres, for £50 million that we did not want to sell. We were forced to. Since apparently these contracts don't seem to hold, we took the position that we're just not selling.
In a way, you can understand why he did it, though, can't you?
Yeah.
But in a way, it's disappointing because you imagine the position we'd be in if we had him now. It's one of those where, I mean, it's all so much in the past. I mean, getting irate about it now is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to something nice.
Cheese?
No.
I love cheese. Let's
Yum.
have cheese.
Cheese is disgusting.
You know what as well, though? Do you know what as well? They have like cheesecake, don't they, Ben? That's also nice.
I wouldn't
Yes. There's nothing quite like a formidable gorgonzola.
Cheese is okay as long as it's melted. I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. But on to reality.
Tune in to the Suburban Gooners podcast, and next week we'll be discussing baked beans.
What I wanted to say was that an Arsenal player finally scored against Man U.
Huzzah!
Has Giroud shagged Moyes' wife? Allegedly.
Did you all see Joel Campbell's goal?
That was a blinder, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a good one. Good touch, great finish. Round Rio Ferdinand. Very good.
I was really gutted actually because I wasn't watching the game, and then I saw on Twitter that Joel Campbell had scored. Then I left it a few minutes and turned it on. He'd just been taken off, so I had to wait for the highlights. But it was worth waiting. It was interesting to see a quick player out wide scoring a goal, which kind of, as we're saying, we do miss Theo. But what do you think about Joel Campbell? Do you guys think he'll come back? What do you think, James?
I mean, he stated in interviews after scoring that goal that he intends to. He wants to succeed at Arsenal. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's that people see him score one really good goal, and they're all like, "Oh, he's the saviour. Let's bring him back."
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you'd like to think there is a reason why he's been, permanently loaned out here, there, and everywhere. Some of it's to do with his work permit, but I think he could have stayed on this term, couldn't he?
Yes, he could have stayed this season.
I think it speaks volumes that Arsene Wenger chose to loan him out but keep Rio instead. So that sort of says how much faith he has. I mean, nothing's proven as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Danny Rose scored a really good goal once, and look at him. He's fat and useless.
Yeah. I read that on Twitter actually. Someone said, was it you, Ben? Was that his Danny Rose moment, or is that the start of something good?
Yeah, I did. I wrote that,
Yeah. Good writing, Ben.
Cheers,
Well
guys.
done, well done, Ben.
Well played, sir.
So very proud of you.
Maybe in 4 years' time, someone will retweet that message.
Steve did.
that you put out
When
there.
Joel Campbell's just killed someone.
Yeah.
I mean, look what he said 4 years ago. They'll call you a hypocrite. Oh, he's a hypocrite, that one. Look what he's been saying.
Look what he said about a murderer.
Joel Campbell killed a centre-back with an axe. Sorry.
The weekend, guys, big game. Huge game in terms of our season moving forward. And you're not going to be joining us, are you, Ben? You can't make it now?
No, I can't make it, which is I'm very gutted about.
Can I have your ticket?
Yeah.
Sweet. I can
Chris, are you actually going to try and sell James the ticket now?
I can't because someone's already snapped it up.
Ah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Pardon my
Sorry
French.
about that. Sorry
This could
about
have
that,
been a
bro.
really happy moment on the podcast.
And now I have to kill someone with an axe.
Can you make sure that you retweet it? Can you message it though, so that we can retweet it in 4 years' time?
Like, give me a second now, and I'll just write something on my Twitter account like, "I'd never murder anyone with an axe." In a couple of weeks, you can retweet that.
Lovely.
I think the funny thing is, though, James, on your Twitter account, that nobody would really bat an eyelid, I think. If you
No,
tweeted that.
probably not. Which is a damning insight into me and my endless debauched shenanigans.
So,
Do you know what the worst part is? There's 80% I can't even talk about. It's tip of the iceberg.
So going on to the weekend, guys. James, what would be your lineup?
Oh, well, I don't know. A lot of people think that we should put the strongest lineup possible for this one and weaken the team against Bayern. And I can understand that to an extent. I think he'll start Fabianski in goal, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I think other than that, you have to go and put a team out to win the game. So it would be a back four of Gibbs, Mertesacker, Koscielny, and Sanya. I'd go with Flamini and Wilshere. Maybe Cazorla, Ozil, Chamberlain, and I'd start Sonogo up front with this one.
Ooh.
If only for the fact that I think he possesses that sort of youthful exuberance, and he's got the unknown potential to give Everton a fright. And I don't think Giroud's head's in it at the moment over all the shit that's going around his personal life, so I wouldn't play him.
I think that's a really, really interesting point. And I think you're right. Something's gone wrong with him mentally, hasn't it? Because he just doesn't seem the same player, the pre-Christmas player that we had. So,
I mean, people underestimate how much effect that can actually have on a person when you think his whole personal life's been, just splattered across the tabloids. And right or wrong, I mean, we all know he's done wrong, but right or wrong, it shouldn't really be something that's that exposed to the public. And you can see that it's affecting him. For that reason, I think he should. I mean, Sonogo's not the ideal replacement, but he doesn't have that burden on him, so that's why I'd start him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because actually, if we look at the Sunderland game, though, Giroud played quite well, didn't he? 2 goals and assists. I mean, I know they were pretty much gifted to him, but you're right, he's not. There is something.
Even after he scored, though, if you look at his body language, it was almost like,
it was different, wasn't it?
For God's sake, I'm glad I've at least banged in a goal, and just sort of looking up to the sky type thing.
It was almost as if he was sort of slightly embarrassed to celebrate in his normal way because of what had happened.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So are you agreeing with the lineup, Chris?
I would go Seaman, Dixon, Adams, Campbell, Silvino.
Silvino,
are you sure?
I love
his
Silvino.
passport's problem. His passport still ain't sorted.
Oh, all right. Well, I can't have the other guy that replaced him. Vieira, and then Flamini just to keep James happy.
That's a good idea.
Bergkamp and Henry up front, and the rest of the players, whoever turns up first, I'd give the jersey to.
I'm there. I'm there with my boots.
You're in, mate. You're in.
So
I can't really. I agree with the lineup really.
How about
I don't think Podolski warrants a start after that performance. I think the Orcs does warrant a start. I think Flamini, he should be starting because I don't think Arteta covered himself in glory. So I think that's about right.
A lot of people have said Arteta's legs have gone, and I'm starting to think there might be some truth to that. He doesn't look anywhere near the player he was last season.
No, he doesn't, does he?
That's not to say he's been bad, because I don't want people to think. Often, because I'm such a staunch advocate of Flamini, people automatically assume that somehow means I'm being detrimental to Arteta, and it's not at all. I just don't think. Flamini's a defensive midfielder. Arteta isn't. That's why one should play there and the other shouldn't, as far as I'm concerned.
Spot on.
Yeah, he's had to adapt, hasn't he? I think it's his potential in terms of his legs, because in some games, I think about Liverpool in the league at home, he was our best player that day in the defensive midfield position. But other games, he just hasn't looked in it and his usual self. I think we do miss his passing when he's not there. But yeah, maybe we do need to think about how we use him moving forward. And Ben, you're a big advocate of us bringing a midfielder in, I know. Is there anything you'd change with that lineup, Ben?
No, I would retweet James. I think he's bang on. It was interesting what he was saying about Giroud. Don't really need to say this at all, but do you think it will get to the point where Arsenal may decide that he's too costly? Or is it too soon to be saying anything like that?
I don't think it'll be saying that he's too costly, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw the summer bring in some serious competition for his place.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's the sort of avenue I was going down. Because obviously, sort of going forward, again, we don't really need to talk about this, but no, it's just interesting. It just sort of sparks something off my head because he likes a project. He's always had almost like a sort of a prodigy striker, hasn't he? Sort of Bentner. He tried it with Bentner, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. And I wonder if that Spanish forward that was mentioned.
Yeah, I was just going to say Morata. I bet he's.
I wonder if he may be our. I don't know. I was just thinking because obviously you got Giroud. He dictates the style of play, doesn't it? So would he want a more all-round striker to sort of change the play, the way we can approach games? I don't know. It'd be interesting. I think that would be definitely one to watch to see how he goes forward with Giroud. Because has he done another one as well?
Right, has he done another one?
But has he actually...
It was literally Frank Spencer style whoopsie on the carpet.
Yeah, because it was a bit in the paper, wasn't it, that made me chuckle. It said Giroud begs for a threesome. I was like thinking to myself, Giroud would be the last one.
The best part about that story is?
You've seen him.
Is thinking, who do you think the other person in that threesome was?
Arsene Wenger.
I bet he's going to find someone with a small dick, so he makes himself like even better than he is.
I bet he does that flicky hand thing at the point of climax as well.
Yes.
Who's the other person, James?
I don't know, but it's intriguing to think about it if you've got a weird warped mind like I have. I reckon it'd be... I'm torn between it being either Carl Jenkinson...
No way.
See, you don't know. Carl Jenkinson's relatively quiet and softly spoken, but he could be a raging sex fiend.
No, but he's off in the room with Gunnersaurus, like he's sort of packaging.
Well, that was the other one I was going to go for, is Gunnersaurus.
I think it'd definitely be a substitute, I reckon. Someone who doesn't regularly play, who needs to sort of vent frustration, who's usually on the bench.
I'll tell you who it couldn't be, and that's Flamini, because they'd just be barking instructions the whole way through.
Do you know what? I reckon
to the left.
I reckon it's Rosicky.
Upper ass. Sorry.
I tell you what, it is Thomas Rosicky, because he's like the Energizer Bunny, isn't he? He just go on forever. And so when Giroud's done enough of his pruning and he wants to finish up and then stand in front of a mirror looking at himself, Thomas could just pop in and finish off the job.
I totally agree with that. You look at Thomas Rosicky and you get the impression he's the kind of guy who could fuck his way through a river of treacle.
Yes, that's exactly what I think when I look at Thomas Rosicky.
Oh, Steve, you're literally going to have to bleep out 75% of this.
No, I'm just going for it. It's going up.
What's going up?
I'm so sorry, by the way. I should apologise for my horrendously potty mouth.
No, this is brilliant.
Well, you asked me on, so you knew what you were getting, so I can't really apologise that much.
Yeah, that's why we asked you on number 18, so that we could give the warning out at the beginning. I think in terms of the lineup for me, moving on from that wonderful conversation we were having, in terms of the lineup for me, yeah, I think I pretty much agree with all of that. I don't always like the thought of taking Arteta out of the side just because of that passing, but I suppose if we got Ozil and Jack, and actually, Flamini surprised me this year with some of his passing range. Talking of Rosicky, on the website today, I had a quick look, and they're asking for people's opinion on Player of the Month. Do you think Rosicky's in with a shout?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I'd say the number one choice would probably be Chamberlain for me. But Rosicky's right up there. Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah.
If we're going to go down that road, how about Kaba Diawara? He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, Kaba Diawara. How about you, Chris? What do you think other than Bergkamp?
Chamberlain, I would have said.
Yeah, I suppose Chamberlain's the only one I can really think of off the top of my head.
So Chesney's been good as well.
Yes, he has been good. He's been good all season, hasn't he? Especially taking out Robin. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, not until the referee got his hand into his pocket, though.
Yeah.
Bloody ref.
Bloody ref.
Those pesky refs and statues that stand beside the goal.
So we're coming to the end now, guys, in terms of our allotted time for the podcast. What we do now, James, is we ask just if anyone's got any closing remarks. I'm going to go first this week, and I'm going to request that I have a vote on your prick of the week, James, on your podcast, and I'm going to vote Alan Pardew.
Oh, I'll make sure that when next time we do prick of the meek, I get prick of the meek. I'd like to apologise to all the meek when they inherit the earth. They won't be happy with me.
Please have that feature. That was brilliant.
Prick of the meek. I'm so sorry. I completely lost my chain of thought now. I'll make sure that when we do prick of the week, I give Alan Pardew an honourable mention because he deserves it for his headbutting antics. The big silly fool.
Any closing remarks from you, James?
Closing. I apologise for my language. That's my closing remark.
Ben?
Oh, I want to vote for Prick of the Meek. No, not really. I just hope we can beat Everton and we don't all jump on the spiral of negativity.
Yeah, and go get a trip to Wembley. That would be nice. Chris?
I've got one sort of semi-depressing thought I'll leave you all with.
Oh, great. I should have gone to you first.
Yeah. Imagine, I was thinking about this morning, imagine if, like Tottenham fell apart last season, for all of the laughter and Mickey taking that we did for those spuds, the same now happens to us.
Oh, don't say things like that, Chris. What's the matter with you?
What have you done?
Chris, you're not coming on next week.
Okay, fine.
Chris, you do realise that if this actually comes to fruition, there's going to be me and several thousand irate Gooners looking to hunt you down and beat you about the head for being so foolish.
A block of cheese.
He's going to kill you with an axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and the meek, we're going to be after you.
Oh, I love it.
Cool. Okay, thank you all, except Chris. Thanks for coming on, James.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
And Suburban Goon is out.
See ya.
Bye.
Cheerio!